to give the treatment for people. Oh, and this is just to give the example. Hydrotherapy, dental treatment for underprivileged people, this is totally free. Because if you know the Princess Mother, she also has this kind of project. So this is just to follow her footsteps. Environmental awareness, raising and conservation. We have so many activities like, the workshop on earthworm compost production, reforestation, communities, and organic farming development workshop. So this is what we do, the policy that we have done for 13 years. Question, rethink. Okay. We have done this, and it is in some way successful. Okay, people are getting, gradually their lives are getting better. This is the diversity of people, just to show there's so many tribes that comes in for the training. What we are concerned being at the border is that things are changing very quickly. Border is being blurred. Once the border is being blurred, especially within ASEAN 2015, ASEAN community will come into place. It will mean a freer flow of people, freer flow of labor, freer flow of goods, freer flow of investment, freer flow of capital. What will happen to Chiang Rai, the bordering town? I would propose that the rethinking, and as we are together as a community, perhaps global you can say, we have to be thinking of community engagement. What do you mean by community? Thus, the definition of community should be revisited, redefined perhaps, to expand the understanding, not just the local community in the sense of province, or not in the sense of the country, but actually in the sense of the wider community, cross-bordering perhaps. And with that, we have tried out a couple of pilot projects with our neighboring countries. We go into Myanmar to work with them because we realize that inequality is not happening just within our country. It's happening between countries and within their own countries as well. This is to better quality of life of the people within the whole region. And not only the revisiting of the definition of community, I think we also have to think about, as scholars, how do we work as a community to combat that kind of challenges that awaits us. Okay, so I would like to end there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Romjan. While listening to you, my brain stops. I cannot think of anything but envy you and wishing that one day I will work there. All right. The clear message is that we have to redefine the terminology of community, right? Now we are going to change to another redefinition. Professor Lim, as he has been working in the public university beforehand, and now he's working for the private university. And also the concept of community in Malaysia is slightly different than what we have in Thailand. It would be very interesting if Professor Lim can share his view on this. And you can keep your time 10 minutes. If there is any blame, it's me who will accept that. Professor Lim, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I cannot promise 10 minutes on the onset. But you see, I've also changed the names so that my sex doesn't change. Anyway, allow me to first thank the organizers for inviting me here and not forgetting me, even though mentioned by Dr. Decha that I started it all, the UCEC series. He calls me the father. That shows I'm also old. That the title emeritus also means old emeritus. You are quite old. Anyway, when I was invited to present this, I'm not sure what it was that they want me to rethink. So I thought that maybe the perspective from a private university may be slightly different from a public university. I was with University Science Malaysia for 35 years, and that is quite a long time. Now, before I proceed to discuss the topic proper, allow me to briefly revisit the role of universities, which I'm sure all of you are very familiar. Of course, we are all agreed that the core functions of universities are teaching, research, and service to the community. And this is indicated by the three overlapping circles. The overlaps imply that these core functions are not completely independent and have bearings or influences on one another. The center where the three circles overlap represents the vision, mission, and strategy of the university. And the arrows radiating from the center are the directions for these universities to head in each of the three functions. This also means that service to community must be articulated clearly in the university's vision, mission, and strategy issues for its proper implementation. Different sources provide different figures, but according to the International Journal of Scientometrics, Infometrics, and Bibliometrics, the total number of universities in the world is more than 17,000. These universities can be broadly divided into public and private universities. Private universities can again be divided broadly into for-profit organizations and not-for-profit organizations. The latter category, and that is the not-for-profit organizations, and the more prestigious and better known are Princeton, Harvard, Stanford, Yale, and MIT. For public and the not-for-profit private universities, their role in terms of service to the community can be viewed as almost similar. The principal purpose of their existence is to serve society. Hence, in that sense, all the activities and all that they do can be considered as corporate or university social responsibility. And in fact, I've expressed this view before in a conference called USR Workshop at Burapha University, somewhere in the south of Thailand last year. Even so-called esoteric and fundamental research carried out in such institutions ultimately are found to have impacted greatly on society. In the case of for-profit private universities, their roles are perceived by the public to be slightly different, as students have to pay rather high tuition fees. So this is where it distinguishes between the for-profit and the not-for-profit of the private universities. Hence, not all that they do are viewed kindly as corporate social responsibility. As such, these private for-profit organizations need to brand themselves and to redefine or revisit the so-called third mission of university, that is, services to the community. Now, it has been mentioned by different speakers that the role of university has changed, and even the keynote speaker talks about the impact of ICT and so on. And I'll not go into that. For public universities, the circle of services to the community also has undergone re-examination and rethinking. The traditional mode of providing services and extension or outreach programs to community has evolved. Most public universities now talk more about community engagement. While this concept is also applicable to private universities, it is essential that for-profit private universities broaden the scope of community to also include students and their parents, and to convince them that they exist to serve them. And this is where I think there's a difference when the chair talks about see whether or not we need to redefine what the community is. For private universities, especially for the private for-profit universities, we think that we have got to include the students as well as parents as part of the community. These universities have to sell a brand to students and parents. They have to convince them that there is a value proposition in what they intend to do, and that they are selling to the students a unique experience and a future in addition to an education. Thus, they should be more student-centric. So private for-profit universities should be more student-centric compared to public universities. Hence, all the ingredients of engagement, that is, of not preaching to students and parents, of seeking mutually beneficial relationships, of commitment and mutual respect, should all be there. Special attention to the academic and social needs is also of paramount importance. The new generation of students differ a great deal from students of yesteryears. This, I think, has been alluded to just now by the keynote speaker. They are definitely more technology savvy. They organize their information differently. They organize their thoughts differently. They communicate differently. They socialize and play differently. Hence, universities should be more sensitive to their needs and should engage or work with them in their world. And this can be quite a challenge, as lecturers, and a lot of them are from a different era, and some of them are from many, many yesteryears, people like me. So how are we going to engage them in the new so-called cyber world? Therefore, it is a challenge, not only to engagement, but also how to instill in them or incorporate in the curriculum this idea called community engagement. In fact, I just had a meeting with my deans a couple of days ago. I was mentioning to them that perhaps in their KPI, there should be an element of community engagement. That means key performance indicators, KPI. But I face a lot of resistance. How am I going to do it? So I said, never mind. For this year, you don't do it. For next year, think about it. You have got to do it. Perhaps, I'm already out. Perhaps the circle on teaching and nurturing should now become nurturing via guiding, experience, sharing, and co-sharing. And that is more towards engaging with the students. So we are not talking about teaching. It's going to be the teaching, the mode of teaching should have got to change towards more of nurturing, more of sharing experiences, and so on. In addition, private for-profit universities have also created trusts or foundations to help needy and deserving students. Thus, they usually set aside a percentage of their profit for such a purpose. At UCSI University, where I come from, the amount of scholarships offered to students has steadily increased from 2.42 million in 2006 to 7.75 million in 2011. And that is, by the way, in the ringgit, Malaysian ringgit. For baht, you add another 0. For US dollars, please divide by 3. That's amount. Oh, I have this one. I thought this one disappears. This one shows that the UCSI's commitment has increased over the years. Besides engaging students and parents as part of the community, private for-profit universities should also endeavor to contribute to society. These activities perhaps can then, from the perspective of the old paradigm, be considered as university social responsibilities. And though there are attempts at proper engagement, however, for private universities, most of the projects that they do are more of extension and an outreach nature. Now, there are some examples at UCSI University. I'll quickly go through them or rather skip them because they call me 10 minutes, and that's the only thing I can save time on. In addition to students and parents, and to retain talent within private for-profit universities, the people, that is the teaching and administrative staff, have to be considered as part and parcel of the community. Thus, HR or human resource policies implemented must contain elements of people proposition with suitable engagement processes in place. At UCSI University, besides annual salary increases and bonus, academic staff are also allowed to partake in the activities of what are called praxis centers of the UCSI group of companies. So welcome to UCSI. You have more chances for additional income. Now, this is a very innovative approach for staff to practice what they profess in the process, and in the process to also reap financial rewards. Now, let me quickly explain a little bit what this praxis concept is all about. Praxis is a term that originates from the Greek word praxis. And the Greek word praxis, P-R-A-K-S-I-S, means active or activity or practice. That is the practical application of any branch of learning. So what we have here, one circle represents UCI's praxis centers and other affiliates. Praxis centers are profit centers or business centers set up by the UCSI group of companies. And I'll explain a little later about what affiliates are. Now, on the other hand, we have another circle called UCSI University. UCSI University is the largest profit center for the group of companies. And the links between UCSI University and the Praxis Center and our affiliates, there are 3 arrows there. You'll see the arrow for students going from left, correct, to right, and academic staff going from left to right. And the corporate lectures, we call them corporate lectures, going the other way. Now, I will mention briefly some of the praxis centers that have been set up by the UCSI group companies. One is the Center for Art and Design, Publishing House, Extension Arm, Lauren Blur Skin Clinic, Leisure and Conventional Center, hotels, teaching hospitals, etc. There are a few other what you call business centers set up by the group of companies, but they are not classified as praxis centers yet. Now, what happens is that students and staff, academic staff, will then run and operate the praxis centers as profit centers. Therefore, they will have experience. They would have experience for solving real-life problems. And for the students, it will be, besides solving real-life problems, they will also be exposed to what they call work-based learning. And similarly for the academic staff. So academic staff both function as academic teaching staff as well as running companies. And the employees, other than the academic staff, the employees of the practice centers will then act as corporate lecturers or adjunct lecturers to the university. Now, besides that, the university also have partnership with industry, about more than 1,000 partners. And also, we partner with the community. Now, this is what we are trying to do here. We have industry and community. And of course, the students and academic staff, besides serving the practice centers, also serves industry and community, as whether it's on a community engagement project basis or on a commercial basis. So what the university is trying to do is to help set up directly through the practice